Stop scrolling. Pay close attention because a hidden truth about empaths rarely gets talked about. Many empaths spend years feeling like outsiders in their own lives. Too sensitive, too emotional, too caring. While everyone else seems stronger, louder, and more confident, empaths often grow up believing something inside them is broken. They feel deeply, they notice things others miss. They carry emotional weight that was never theirs to hold. For years, this sensitivity can feel like a burden instead of a gift. Yet behind this struggle sits a surprising reality. Some of the strongest empaths never step into their real power early in life. Their strength arrives later, quietly, gradually, through pain, disappointment, betrayal, and lessons that reshape who they are. Very few people realize that an empath's greatest transformation often begins after years of emotional exhaustion. Hidden beneath all the confusion is a powerful process that changes everything. In this video, you will discover why empaths often become stronger with age, why early struggles secretly build emotional power, and why many empaths only discover their true purpose later in life. Stay with us until the end because one truth near the end may completely change the way you see your own journey. A lot of empaths spend years asking, "Why am I different?" Today, that mystery begins to unfold. Welcome to Empath Energy. Subscribe and join a community that understands the strength hidden inside sensitive souls. Pay attention to this hidden truth. Most empaths never begin life feeling light. From a very young age, something feels different. While other children simply hear words, sensitive children notice energy. They notice the silence after an argument, the tension in a room before anyone speaks, the sadness hidden behind a smile. They sense emotions that nobody explains, and most of the time they cannot understand why they suddenly feel heavy inside. Many empaths grow up carrying emotional weight long before they even understand emotions. A parent walks into the room upset and suddenly the child's mood changes. Family stress becomes their stress. Unspoken pain becomes their pain. Anxiety in the home quietly settles into their heart. Without realizing it, they start absorbing everything around them like emotional sponges. The strange part is that nobody teaches them this is happening. Nobody says you are carrying feelings that do not belong to you. So they assume something must be wrong with them. They think they are too emotional, too sensitive, too affected by everything. Meanwhile, they are simply reacting to an invisible world many people never notice. As the years pass, this pattern becomes normal. Empaths learn to watch faces closely. They learn to read moods. They become experts at sensing emotional shifts because their nervous system stays alert. Deep inside, they start believing keeping everyone emotionally okay is somehow their responsibility. And without realizing it, a powerful habit begins forming very early in life. Instead of asking, "How do I feel?" they start asking, "How is everyone else feeling?" Slowly, almost invisibly, they begin carrying emotional burdens far bigger than their young hearts were ever meant to hold. Watch closely, because this is where many empaths slowly disappear without even realizing it. After spending years absorbing emotions around them, they begin learning a quiet lesson. Peace keeps people happy, and keeping people happy feels safe. Little by little, they start connecting love with sacrifice. They notice that staying quiet avoids tension. Saying yes avoids disappointment. Putting others first brings acceptance, so they adapt. They become the peacemakers, the ones who smooth over arguments, the ones who apologize first, even when they are hurting too. Deep inside, they start believing that their value comes from making life easier for everyone else. As time passes, conflict begins feeling dangerous. Not because empaths are weak, but because they feel everything so deeply. Raised voices feel heavier, rejection feels sharper, disapproval stays longer. So instead of expressing pain, many empaths swallow it. They silence their own needs. They push their feelings aside and tell themselves, "It is okay," even when it is not okay at all. Soon, a painful pattern forms. Everyone feels comfortable around them because empaths become experts at carrying emotional weight. Friends lean on them, family depends on them, partners expect endless understanding, and empaths give and give and give. They become emotional homes for everyone around them. Yet very few people stop and ask a simple question: who is taking care of the empath? Years of overgiving slowly create exhaustion that words cannot fully explain. Smiles begin hiding pain. Kindness starts covering loneliness. Then something unexpected happens. Repeated disappointment starts opening their eyes. The empath who once believed endless love would always be returned begins noticing a painful truth. Not everyone values a soft heart. Some people only value access to it. And slowly, after enough hurt, enough betrayal, and enough emotional exhaustion, a quiet shift begins deep inside them. Listen carefully, because this stage changes countless empaths in ways they never see coming. Years pass, and overgiving slowly becomes a way of life. Empaths become emotional homes for everyone around them. People arrive carrying stress, heartbreak, fear, and confusion. And the empath opens the door every single time. They listen, they comfort, they understand. They stay up late answering messages. They carry pain that was never theirs. They become the safe place everyone runs to during storms. But while everyone finds shelter in them, very few ever stop to ask where the empath goes when their own storm arrives. This kind of exhaustion does not happen overnight. It builds quietly, one sacrifice at a time, one ignored feeling at a time, one "I'll be okay" after another. The empath becomes so focused on helping others breathe that they slowly forget they are struggling to breathe themselves. Everyone takes pieces of their energy, their time, their patience, their emotional strength, and because giving feels natural, they rarely notice how empty they are becoming. Then strange feelings begin showing up: constant tiredness, emotional heaviness, a deep loneliness even in crowded rooms. They start feeling drained around people they once loved being around. At first, they blame themselves. They think they are becoming selfish, colder, different. But beneath the surface, something deeper is happening. Their soul is becoming exhausted from carrying too much for too long. And eventually, life places empaths in painful situations that force their eyes open. Betrayals become harder to ignore. Kindness gets mistaken for weakness. Trust breaks. Hearts crack. The empath who once gave endless chances begins asking difficult questions, questions they avoided for years. Why am I always the one giving? Why do I feel invisible? Why do I keep losing myself trying to save everyone else? And those questions slowly become the beginning of a completely different journey. Pay attention, because this is the part many empaths never talk about out loud. Repeated betrayal changes something deep inside them. Not all at once, not after one disappointment, not after one broken promise. It happens slowly, piece by piece. Empaths naturally believe in people. They see potential where others see flaws. They forgive quickly. They stay longer than most people would. They give second chances, third chances, and sometimes even 10th chances. They keep hoping love, loyalty, and kindness will eventually be returned. But life can be a painful teacher. Over time, kindness starts getting mistaken for weakness. Some people begin expecting endless patience. Others take advantage of endless understanding. And because empaths usually see the good in people, they often ignore warning signs right in front of them. They excuse behavior. They make reasons for others. They tell themselves maybe they are struggling. Maybe they did not mean it. Maybe things will change. Until one day, reality becomes impossible to ignore. Trust breaks. Hearts break. And emotional pain starts opening their eyes in ways comfort never could. The empath who once focused on everyone else's intentions starts noticing patterns. They begin remembering all the moments they ignored their own instincts, the moments their heart felt heavy around someone, the moments their inner voice whispered that something felt wrong. Suddenly, old memories begin making sense. Then powerful questions begin rising to the surface. Who am I beneath all this giving? Why do I always feel responsible for everyone? Why do I keep losing myself while trying to keep others? And for the first time, the empath stops searching outside for answers. Their attention slowly turns inward. That shift changes everything. Because somewhere in the middle of heartbreak and disappointment, they begin discovering a lesson that takes many empaths years to understand. Caring for others was never supposed to mean abandoning themselves. And from that realization, a different kind of strength quietly starts growing. Something powerful begins happening at this stage, and many empaths never expect it. After years of carrying people, sacrificing peace, and losing themselves in relationships, they finally reach a moment where they can no longer ignore the emptiness inside. The exhaustion becomes too heavy. The emotional weight becomes too much. And suddenly, difficult questions rise from places deep within them. Who am I without fixing people? Why do I always feel drained? Why do I lose myself in others? Questions like these can feel frightening because for many empaths, helping others became more than a habit. It became an identity. For years, they measured their worth through giving, through being needed, through being the strong one, the understanding one, the dependable one. Their role became so deeply attached to who they were that they rarely stopped to ask a simple question: who am I when nobody needs me? And that question can shake everything, because many empaths slowly realize they spent years building their lives around everyone else's emotions. Their schedule changed for people, their mood changed for people, their choices changed for people. Somewhere along the way, they became experts at understanding everyone except themselves. At first, this realization feels painful, almost like waking up and realizing you have been living inside a role instead of living as yourself. But pain has a strange way of creating clarity. The empath starts noticing old patterns, the constant rescuing, the endless overgiving, the fear of disappointing others, and for the first time they begin stepping back and observing instead of automatically sacrificing. Then another shift quietly begins. They stop chasing approval as much as before. They stop explaining themselves to everyone. They start realizing that protecting their own peace matters too. Slowly, very slowly, a new voice begins replacing the old one. A voice that no longer asks, "How can I save everyone?" but instead whispers something far more important. Who am I becoming? Listen closely, because this lesson changes the entire life of an empath. For many, it arrives late. After years of exhaustion, after heartbreak, after carrying people who never carried them back, the empath finally discovers something that feels almost shocking at first. Caring for others does not require sacrificing yourself. For someone who spent years believing love meant endless giving, this realization can feel uncomfortable, even wrong. Because many empaths were taught, directly or indirectly, that saying no was selfish, that choosing themselves meant disappointing others, that being a good person meant always being available. So when they first begin creating boundaries, guilt often shows up immediately. They hesitate before saying no. They over-explain. They worry about hurting people. Old habits resist change because for so long their identity was built around keeping everyone else comfortable. But something inside them has started changing. Deep down, they know they cannot continue living the same way. Slowly, boundaries stop feeling like walls and start feeling like protection. The empath realizes that boundaries are not punishment. They are not rejection. They are emotional safety. They create space to breathe, space to think, space to reconnect with parts of themselves they ignored for years. And something surprising starts happening. The more they protect their energy, the more clearly they begin seeing people. They notice who respects limits and who becomes angry when limits appear. They notice who truly cares and who only cared about access. Suddenly, relationships begin revealing truths that were hidden before. Then another shift quietly takes place. Younger empaths often spend years searching for approval, searching for acceptance, searching for proof that they are enough. But time and pain begin changing that hunger. Little by little, the empath stops chasing validation from everyone around them. And for the first time in their life, something more important starts becoming their priority. Peace, real peace, the kind that no longer depends on making everyone else happy. Notice this quiet transformation, because this is where the empath starts becoming someone entirely different. Younger empaths often spend years searching for approval without even realizing it. They want people to understand them, to appreciate them, to choose them. They become experts at reading reactions, adjusting their behavior, and making themselves easier to love. Deep down, many believe acceptance must be earned, so they give more. try harder, stay longer. They bend themselves into shapes that fit other people's expectations, hoping that enough love and enough effort will finally make them feel seen. But life slowly teaches a lesson that changes everything. Approval is exhausting to chase because it constantly moves. One person wants one version of you, another person wants something different. The empath begins noticing that no matter how much they give, no matter how much they sacrifice, trying to satisfy everyone leaves them feeling strangely empty. Then age, pain, and experience start creating a powerful shift. Older empaths begin wanting something very different. Not attention, not applause, not constant reassurance. They start seeking peace, real peace. The kind that comes from no longer needing permission to be yourself. Suddenly, things that once felt important begin losing their grip. Winning every argument no longer matters. Explaining every choice no longer matters. Being liked by everyone no longer matters. The empath starts protecting their energy instead of proving their worth. And the more they let go of validation, the lighter they begin to feel. Something unexpected also happens during this stage. Years of pain begin transforming into wisdom. The heartbreaks, the betrayals, the disappointments, none of it disappears, but it changes shape. The empath who once saw pain as proof of weakness starts realizing something extraordinary. Every difficult experience was quietly teaching them how to understand people on a much deeper level than before. Pay attention to this shift, because this is where an empath's deepest wounds begin turning into one of their greatest strengths. For years, pain felt like something that only took from them. Broken trust, disappointment, emotional exhaustion. They carried memories of being misunderstood, overlooked, and drained by people they cared about. But time starts revealing something hidden beneath all of it. Years of hurt slowly become wisdom, not the kind found in books or advice. The kind earned through living, feeling, and surviving. Empaths begin noticing things much faster than before. Small changes in behavior no longer go unnoticed. A forced smile, a change in tone, a strange feeling around someone. They stop ignoring the quiet signals they once pushed aside. Their past experiences sharpen their awareness. Patterns become easier to recognize because they have lived through them too many times. They begin seeing the difference between people who need help and people who simply need access, between genuine kindness and hidden manipulation, between someone who values their heart and someone who only values what they can receive from it. That awareness does not make them cold. It makes them wiser. And perhaps the most powerful change happens inside them. They begin understanding people deeply without losing themselves in the process. Younger empaths often absorbed emotions without boundaries. Older empaths learn to observe without drowning. They listen without carrying everything home with them. They care without abandoning themselves. Then something even more powerful begins unfolding. Their energy becomes more intentional, more protected, more selective. The empath who once opened every door starts realizing that not everyone deserves unlimited access to their heart, their time, or their peace. Because after years of giving everything away, they finally understand the value of something they spent most of their life neglecting. Their own energy. Notice this quiet evolution, because this is often the moment people start saying an empath has changed. Friends notice it, family notices it, even people from the past notice it. The empath who once answered every call, fixed every crisis, and gave endless chances suddenly becomes more careful with their energy. Not colder, not unkind, just more aware. Years of experience teach them something powerful. Energy is valuable, and not everyone should receive unlimited access to it. For most of their life, empaths kept every door open. They welcomed people in with trust, patience, and understanding. They believed everyone deserved endless opportunities, but after enough emotional exhaustion, enough heartbreak, and enough disappointment, something shifts. They realize presence is a gift, not an obligation. Their time matters. Their peace matters. Their heart matters. Now they start paying attention to things they once ignored. How people make them feel after conversations. Which relationships leave them energized and which ones leave them empty. Which people respect boundaries and which people only appear when they need something. The empath begins noticing that not every connection deserves the same level of access. And for the first time, peace becomes more important than pleasing everyone around them. They stop forcing relationships, stop chasing people, stop trying to rescue every situation. Silence no longer feels uncomfortable. Distance no longer feels cruel. Protecting their peace begins feeling necessary. Then another realization arrives, and this one changes everything. The empath starts understanding that saving everyone was never their responsibility. For years they carried struggles that were never theirs. They believed enough love could heal everyone, enough patience could fix everyone, enough sacrifice could change everyone. But life slowly teaches them a truth that transforms their entire path. Some people can only heal when they choose healing for themselves, and that lesson opens the door to a completely different version of the empath. Pay attention, because this becomes one of the biggest turning points in an empath's entire life. For years, many empaths quietly carry a belief they never even question. They think their purpose is to save people, to heal pain, to fix broken hearts, to stay long enough, love deeply enough, and sacrifice enough pieces of themselves until others finally change. They become rescuers without realizing it, drawn toward wounded people, drawn toward chaos, drawn toward emotional storms because somewhere deep inside, helping others feels like purpose. But eventually, reality begins teaching a difficult lesson. No amount of love can heal someone who refuses to heal themselves. No amount of patience can force growth. No amount of sacrifice can rescue a person determined to remain the same. This realization does not arrive gently. It usually arrives through exhaustion, disappointment, and relationships that leave the empath feeling completely empty. At first, this truth hurts deeply, because empaths genuinely care. They want people to win. They want people to heal. They see possibilities inside others that even those people cannot see themselves. But over time, they begin understanding something life-changing. Supporting someone and saving someone are not the same thing. And the moment that truth finally sinks in, a heavy weight begins lifting from their shoulders. They stop feeling responsible for everyone's happiness. Stop carrying guilt for everyone's choices. Stop believing every broken person is theirs to fix. For the first time in years, they breathe differently. Then something beautiful starts happening. The energy they spent trying to rescue everyone slowly returns to them. And with that energy comes space. Space to rediscover forgotten dreams, forgotten passions, forgotten parts of themselves that spent years hidden beneath sacrifice. Little by little, the empath stops shrinking to fit into other people's lives. They stop apologizing for their sensitivity, stop pretending to be someone easier to understand, and as that happens, something powerful begins rising to the surface, their most authentic self. Notice this moment carefully, because this is where the empath finally starts returning to themselves. For years, many empaths learned to wear invisible masks. They softened their opinions to avoid conflict, hid parts of their personality to fit in, pretended certain things did not hurt, acted stronger than they felt, smaller than they truly were. Somewhere along the journey, survival quietly turned into performance. They became versions of themselves designed to keep peace, gain acceptance, and avoid rejection. But after enough life experience, something begins changing from the inside out. The empath becomes tired of pretending, tired of shrinking their presence to make others comfortable, tired of apologizing for being deeply emotional, deeply caring, and deeply aware. They begin realizing that sensitivity was never the problem. The problem was spending years surrounded by people who misunderstood it. Slowly, they stop editing themselves. Their voice becomes more honest. Their boundaries become clearer. Their choices become more aligned with who they truly are, instead of who others expected them to be. And for the first time in a very long time, they stop asking for permission to exist as they are. Something powerful happens during this stage. The empath starts feeling lighter, not because life suddenly becomes easier, but because they are no longer carrying the exhausting pressure of pretending. They stop chasing belonging and start creating it within themselves. And then people around them begin noticing the difference. The empath feels calmer now. stronger, harder to manipulate, more grounded. There is a quiet confidence in them that was not there before, not loud confidence, not forced confidence, the kind built through pain, healing, and self-discovery, because after years of losing themselves, they finally reconnect with something that changes everything, their own truth. And from that truth, a different kind of power starts emerging. The kind of power that many empaths never discover until much later in life. Watch this transformation closely, because this is the version of the empath very few people ever see coming. After years of emotional storms, heartbreak, sacrifice, and painful lessons, their power finally begins activating. Not through anger, not through revenge, not through becoming cold. It happens quietly. The older empath becomes calmer, more centered, more connected to themselves than ever before. And that calmness carries a different kind of strength. Earlier in life, emotions often pulled them in every direction. Other people's moods affected them deeply. Guilt controlled decisions. Approval shaped choices. But now something has changed. They understand themselves better. They understand people better. And because of that, they stop reacting to everything around them. The older empath becomes harder to manipulate. Not because they stop caring, but because they finally recognize patterns they once missed. Empty words no longer impress them. False intentions become easier to sense. They trust their intuition more than they trust appearances. The same sensitivity that once overwhelmed them now becomes wisdom. Their emotional strength also looks different from what most people expect. It is not loud. It does not need attention. It does not need to prove anything. Real strength appears in their ability to walk away from what destroys their peace, in their ability to say no without guilt, in their ability to care deeply without losing themselves. And perhaps the most beautiful change of all is this: they become deeply connected to who they truly are. They stop searching outside for answers they spent years chasing. The acceptance, the validation, the sense of worth, they finally begin finding it within. People often think empaths become powerful later in life because they suddenly change. But the truth runs deeper. The power was always there, hidden beneath years of overgiving, pain, and self-abandonment, slowly waiting for the moment they finally remembered who they were. The greatest power of an empath was never sensitivity. It was transformation. Because sensitivity alone is not the end of the story. The real story begins after the heartbreak, after the exhaustion, after years of carrying emotional weight that was never theirs to hold. The empath who once spent life saving everyone else slowly becomes someone entirely different. Not harder, not colder, just wiser, stronger, more whole. The person who once carried everyone finally learns how to carry themselves. And maybe that is why empaths become their most powerful self later in life. Because their strength is not built in comfort, it is built through lessons, through pain that becomes wisdom, through loss that becomes clarity, through years of forgetting themselves, only to finally remember who they were all along. So never believe that your sensitivity made you weak. Never believe that your kindness was a flaw. Every experience, every heartbreak, every difficult season may have been preparing you for the version of yourself that was waiting beneath it all. If this message connected with you, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Empath Energy, and share it with someone who needs this reminder today. Because sometimes the souls that struggle the longest become the lights that shine the strongest, and your story may just be beginning now.